One of the best things about playing games like Diablo and games in the genre is trying out all the in-game systems and seeing if they really present a challenge or change the game in a meaningful way. I've been doing tons of research on Diablo 4 because for me, the in-game grind is one of the most important aspects of the game, and if I can earn extra loot or make my character significantly more powerful when doing so, then it's even better. In this video, I'm going to be going over the in-game and character progression systems that I think feels amazing in the game, and give you some insight of what to expect once you reach the in-game in Diablo 4. Let's begin. Before we jump into the first system, I am doing a giveaway for Diablo 4. You guys have been amazing in terms of support on the channel, and I love giving back to my community, so down in the description I have a link for you. Just fill out the information and subscribe, and you'll be easily entered into the giveaway. So the first system I wanted to cover is one that Diablo fans should be pretty familiar with, and that is the difficulty scaling or world tiers that you can change pretty much anytime in the story. All players by default will start at World Tier 1, which is a mode for players who are new to the genre or Diablo and who want a light challenge. As you can see, drops are average and the enemies are pretty easy to defeat, no surprise here. Once you hit World Tier 2, that's when you start to see a noticeable difference in drops and gameplay. Just one tier above will give better drops, increased gold, and a whopping 20% increased experience. Now that's pretty significant. 20% is massive in most games of this genre, and just increasing it by one really made the world tiers give a lot. Now, as you get higher and higher in the world tiers, you gain significantly more bonuses, and I want to highlight a few milestones in the world tiers. World Tier 3 is when the rewards really pick up, and you have officially entered into Nightmare difficulty. You should be around level 50 at this point, and should have finished most of the campaign, as well as the Cathedral of Light dungeon. The significant changes for Nightmare difficulty is champion monsters start to spawn. These are monsters that have a special bonus, usually like increased health, damage, attack speed, that kind of stuff, and they typically have an aura that buffs allies. Sacred items and Nightmare sigils start to spawn. You can use these to unlock Nightmare dungeons, which we're going to talk about shortly, and you get a massive 100% increased experience boost. That's 80% more than the previous tier. Now you do lose 20% of your non-physical resistance, which isn't that bad. I don't think 20% is that hard to make up, and as you can see, you get a massive reward for a pretty low risk. World Tier 4 or Hell difficulty give you all the same benefits, but with better effect of course, but the major addition is the inclusion of rare Nightmare sigils that drop for higher tier Nightmare dungeons. You would only have to complete the Fallen Temple dungeon on Nightmare to unlock this difficulty, but again, significantly more reward for one more tier up. The final world tier that we know of currently is Torment difficulty, and again has better increases across the board, but with the possibilities of uniques dropping, which can be built to finding uniques. And you have a chance for ancestral items to drop with a low chance. Now this is all the information that we have on the world tiers in Diablo 4, and very likely subject to change, but the major takeaway here is the world tiers provide a massive benefit, and if you're doing in-game Diablo, you really want to push the world tiers. If you like what you see here today, consider subscribing for more Diablo 4 and ARPG content, and let's dive back into the video. Now I did mention previously that there were Nightmare dungeons, and I wanted to talk about them. And to me, this seems to be the core in-game of Diablo 4. I did say that you can use your sigils and Nightmare sigils to get into these dungeons, and it looks like these are inspired by the greater rifts from Diablo 3, but with a twist. Nightmare dungeons are like regular dungeons, but with added challenge. Each Nightmare sigil will have a dungeon tied to it specifically, and the difficulty will scale infinitely. Again, each sigil will be unique to the corresponding dungeon, and the affixes on these sigils will affect the player, the enemies, loot drops, and the environment of these dungeons. Now this system sounds exactly like Path of Exile's mapping system. If you ever played the in-game of Path of Exile, one of the core systems is mapping, and it looks like Diablo is taking inspiration from PoE for this. Each dungeon can have things like multiple bosses, all enemies can be invisible until they enter combat, and maybe even have elements around the map that can burn people, pretty much things that you've probably seen in Path of Exile's mapping system. Personally, I like the mapping system of Path of Exile, so hopefully Diablo 4 can implement the system in a smart way, maybe make it a bit less complicated for players, but overall, I can't view this anything other than a net positive. Now I wanted to elaborate a bit more on some ways to get sigils for Nightmare dungeons, and that brings me to the Tree of Whispers. This is going to be a mechanic in which objectives appear on the map. You go to do them, do whatever the whisper is at the time, and you get rewarded with grim favors. Grim favors can be exchanged with the tree of whispers for a variety of loot. This includes those nightmare sigils we talk about and experience as well. Now, I do believe this mechanic does have something of a daily feel to them, so this may turn some players off. I personally played a lot of Lost Ark on this channel, and that game was quite grindy, so I can definitely see why many players may feel that way about the dailies, but I will say that this doesn't seem that time consuming, so we'll have to see just how it plays out. At the end of the day, the Tree of Whispers will give pretty decent rewards, and it just adds another element to the endgame should you choose to participate. Now, running nightmare dungeons and Trees of Whispers can be fun, but if that's not your thing and you really want to push for loot, then the Helltide event could be a thing for you. Once you hit World Tier 3 or Nightmare difficulty, you get access to an event called Helltides. This is the worldwide event that has much more powerful monsters and greater forces of those said monsters throughout the world. Now, these monsters are much stronger and will drop better loot, but more importantly, they will drop items called Helltide Cinders. Throughout the region, there will be Helltide chests, and these chests can be opened with these cinders. And these chests has a special property where they can target specific gear slots. So for example, if your legging really suck or you want to complete a gear set tied to the leg portions, you can use these Helltide chests to specifically target leg slots. The biggest negative when it comes to Helltides is if you die, you lose all your cinders, and you would need to go back to reclaim them. Now, I don't know if this means you need to actually refarm them, or you have to go back to your dead corpse and pick it up, but nonetheless, target farming gear is in Diablo 4. Now, world bosses are a completely new entry to the Diablo franchise, and another system in the game. Technically, world bosses exist throughout the campaign no matter what difficulty you are in. Since you can scale the world up to World Tier 5, I imagine the bosses will be affected by this scaling. After looking at gameplay of the boss fight, it does look like 12 players can fight a boss at any given time. I can't confirm this for sure, but you will be able to party up with up to 3 other players and take down these bosses. The boss has a stagger mechanic in the game, which whenever you stagger them, they start to lose weapons or limbs, making them permanently weaker for the fight. And this can occur multiple times during the fight, so this should be a pretty cool way of fighting bosses in the open world. One thing I do wonder is, when Helltides are present on the map, will the boss scale with the Helltides as well as the world tiers? That'd be interesting to know, as both will come with massive modifiers, and the boss itself actually drops substantial loot as well, so a lot of loot to be had if this does work that way. Finally, I want to talk about a few other things that in my opinion require their own individual video, but I wanted to list them briefly and talk about them, as these are some additional in-game activities you can do to push your character. Starting at level 50, you can earn powerful passives called Paragon points, in which you get 4 every level beyond level 50, with a total of around 200. You use these points to add to the Paragon board, which come with increased power based on the rarity of the nodes you choose. Now, these range from normal, magic, rare, and legendary. The more you add to the board, the more powerful you become, and you can cross boards for even more power. The Codex of Power is a system in which players can run different dungeons to unlock special effects that can thereafter be added to gear. Your codex get more powerful the more you unlock doing these dungeons, and it opens up your choices for massive build potential. Lastly, the team did say that there will be a seasonal update every 3 months. This is similar to what Path of Exile does, in which the game adds brand new permanent mechanics and system to the game every implementation. I do want to stress this is not like the seasonal system in Diablo 3, but more so a full-fledged alternate game mode that adds to the game, again very similar to Path of Exile leagues. There you have it, guys. This is some of what to expect for the launch of Diablo 4. Keep in mind, this is only the information that we have present, as Blizzard is a little bit more hush-hush when it comes to the game. But let me know what you think down below. Are you excited to try the endgame? Do you think it will actually hold players' interest, or will Diablo need a few updates to really shine? Regardless, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like as well as subscribe to the channel for more Diablo 4 content. And I'll see you in the next video very, very soon. Later.